If I had to start cold email all over again in 2026, emails are probably the last thing that I'd worry about touching. Now, whether you get replies and booked calls is decided long before a single word goes out from your inbox. It comes down to the order that you build things in. The offer first, then infrastructure, then your list, and then, and only then, your copy. Everyone usually starts backwards. They open up ChatGPT, they'll fuss over subject lines a little bit, try to come up with some clever first lines, maybe with that AI help, and they'll fire off a few thousand emails, and then they're going to wonder when nothing comes back and decide, yep, they're right, cold email is dead. But the thing is, cold email isn't dead. Now, I send millions of cold emails a month across dozens of companies, and I've got this down to a system. So in this video, I'm going to build the whole thing with you in order from scratch. By the end, you'll have a cold email machine that should be able to book calls or demos for you on autopilot. Let's get into it. Now look, before any tools, before any copy, everything starts with the offer. The offer and who you're going to send it to are going to decide most of your results before you write a word. If what you're selling isn't compelling, no subject line or personalized first line is going to save it. But the problem is that it's more a formula that's built for a sales page and your closing call, and it's not necessarily the right tool for a first cold email. On a cold email, the bar is a little bit different. Your offer has to be specific, believable, and relevant to the person that's reading it. A clear outcome that they want is there and very easy for them to understand, and it's been aimed at somebody that outcome fits. You don't necessarily need something like a money-back guarantee that everyone copies from that book. And if you're doing outreach inside of a company, you don't even own the offer, right? It might be a promise that you're not able to make. On a cold first touch, relevance is going to do a lot of the work that a guarantee is supposed to do. Getting that right is going to move the reply rate a lot more than a particular copy tweak ever will. So an example, we took on a client who runs ads for other companies. We rebuilt their offer around a specific promise their buyer cared about, and 4 to 5x the return on ad spend for these guys. They backed it with a guarantee since ad spend is measurable, but that wasn't really what moved the needle. It was really more about the specificity, a clear outcome, and it was aimed at the right people where that outcome was relevant. Before that, they were hardly getting anything out of cold email. The same market and the same outreach they were already sending, and we didn't touch a single line of the emails other than the part around the offer itself. And within the first 30 days, 11 booked meetings, and they closed 2 deals. You don't need to run the offer in the email at all. The email has really one job. Find out if a problem is real for them, the problem that you solve, and then get them to reply to you. So lead with a question. Something like, hey, here's a problem that I run into all the time with companies like yours. Does this hit for you too? And if I could fix it for you without ripping out what you've already got, is that worth a look? They don't have to commit budget or say yes to anything, right? They're just raising their hand and acknowledging. The deeper offer and kind of all of the value stacking stuff, that can come later on a sales call once they're talking to you. First things first, get the offer right, but specifically a cold email offer. It doesn't have to do all that much. They just have to reply. A lot of people hook their main domain up to a sales tool, and then they start sending, 500, 1,000, 5,000 emails a week or a month, and they don't hear anything back. That's bucket 1, and we do run into it all the time. Bucket 2 might be, hey, I'm gonna go and buy a domain or 2. I'm gonna maybe hook up a tool like an Instantly, then I can send some emails. But they probably didn't get seen. So here are some rules that you can follow every time to make the infrastructure piece of the puzzle a little bit less mysterious. Number 1, you never want to send cold email from your main company domain. One bad campaign can do a lot of damage. So you really need to buy separate domains for your outreach, keep your real domain clean, and you need a lot of separate domains because we don't want to be doing too much from any one spot. Now keep these domains simple, no hyphens, no numbers, avoid prefixes that are too common that might signal that you're doing cold email. We're seeing some issues lately at scaled mail with stuff like .info, so if it is too good to be true as far as price goes with domain registration, just do the up the middle stuff, even if it costs you a couple extra bucks, just to stay on the right side of these inboxing filters. Now on each domain, you're going to want to create a few inboxes, and again, keep the volume low on each one. Each inbox should look like a normal person sending a handful of emails a day, not a machine or an outbound operator that's trying to send tens of thousands of cold emails. You're going to want SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, your DNS authentication records on every domain. These records are going to show Google and Microsoft that you're a legitimate sender, and you have a much better likelihood of hitting the inbox if this is set up properly. I always say split your sending between Google and Microsoft inboxes. If one provider ends up tightening their rules or their algorithm, you're only really seeing the impact on half of your infrastructure instead of going all in on one. they make a big update and suddenly your campaigns are in the toilet until they either roll it back or you figure it out. And a last piece of advice, a lot of people swear by doing matching the email service provider. So sending from Google inboxes to Google addresses. I am not a huge fan of this strategy. I think it gives one provider both sides of the conversation and makes it easier for them to fingerprint what you're doing, sending outbound at scale. We've tested this, and yes, you might eke out a bit of performance gain, but you also risk burning your domains way faster, and then you're going to have to replace them that much more quickly. So the juice is not worth the squeeze 9 times out of 10. Now, warm-up needs to be running the entire time you're sending, not just at the start, and every inbox should maintain a 2-to-1 ratio of warm-up emails to cold emails. Cold email is going to create negative signals, bounces, people marking this as spam, etc. So those warm-up emails help to drown those signals out. If you turn it off, then the numbers on these domains and inboxes are just going to look terrible because most people don't necessarily want to hear from you about whatever you're offering. It might be the best thing in the world, but sales outreach is sales outreach at the end of the day. Finally, you want to rotate your inboxes. So split them into groups so that some are sending while others are resting and just warming. If you have 3 groups, it's even better. You can have 1 sending, 1 warming, and then 1 resting or ready to replace one of the others if you run into issues with any of your batches. Now, if you don't want to manage domains, authentication, inbox rotation, all the daily deliverability stuff that I just went through, Scaled Mail handles the full infrastructure as a managed service. The link is in the description. Now, the list comes next. A small, accurate list, generally speaking, is going to be a really large, loose one that's expansive and includes absolutely everybody you want to email. A lot of people do exactly that. They'll pull a massive list from like an Apollo or a Zoom Info, and they're going to use the same filters that everybody else is using in your market. And these contacts are probably getting hammered by dozens of other companies selling what you sell, probably on the same day. A list that's 1/10 of the size, but filled with the right people, will generally outperform a list of 50,000 marginal contacts. And if you have 10 tight lists of 500, that'll book more than just one big list of 5,000. Again, generally speaking. The message is only as good as the people it's being sent to. So you want to build your list, in my opinion, company by company to start. So start with businesses that fit your ideal customer profile, back into the right people inside those companies. And a lot of people do this backwards. So, for many of you, this might be a shift in how you think about it. A lot of people just go straight to VPs of marketing and spit out a list and start pulling from better sources than just a standard B2B contact database. Use industry directories, review sites, lookalike tools that build off of your best current clients and then show you more businesses that look like them. That last option, by the way, works especially well. We use it all the time at Beanstalk. Qualify every company before anyone goes into a particular sequence. And by qualify, I mean qualify that they're the best fit to receive that particular message for that particular sub-campaign. Keep only companies that match that criteria in that campaign so you're not wasting sends on people who would never buy or just are unlikely to connect with your specific offer framing on that campaign. You're going to want to run that final list that you have through an email verifier before uploading it to your sequencer, because bounces really damage fresh domains rather quickly. And don't use the same provider that you use to pull your list. It's always good to do a quick double check. We like Lead Magic for this. Again, link in the description if you'd like to take a look. Okay, so once you got your offer, your message figured out, your infrastructure, and the list, the copy actually is pretty easy. You want to keep every email under 60 words, and the shorter is better, especially for Outlook inboxing these days. Be specific about the outcome and the call to action. What's your ask? Explain why you're reaching out to this person right now, and show that you understand their situation and that you've done a little bit of research. Remove anything that you're adding just to sound clever. You don't need to shout out that you read one of their social media posts, which is creepy anyway. Commenting on someone's LinkedIn in general no longer stands out. This is a tired strategy at this point. It's not going to help you anymore. It looks like it's AI slop because it is. The effective approach is going to tie your personalization directly to your offer, directly to your message. We had one SaaS client where just changing this, we moved up their positive reply rate from around 10-15% to 40% by making the angle specific to each company's situation. Now, AI can be super helpful with this, right? With research and drafting. And the way I do it, I use a series of small prompts instead of one big one that tries to write the whole email, right? There's a lot of tools that do that. What I found is that it just will revert to the median and it'll just be generic at best. So you might have something instead where it's almost Mad Lib style. One prompt reads the company site, another identifies a likely problem based on that company and the site and the information it pulled back. Then another one is using what came back from those in Clay or Bitscale or whatever you're using to draft the angle and put it into that snippet right in the right spot in the email. Then I review those angles, right? I'll see what's previewing in my list tool and make sure that we're choosing angles that tend to work and tend to spit out a good output. And we found in general that Claude and Grok actually produce the best natural writing. ChatGPT is a little bit robotic sounding, but that's a quick aside. And this process works. We ran one campaign that hit a 59% positive reply rate. That's not typical, but it is possible. And in most cases, we've seen a lot of the best results by doing this process where we break apart. Maybe we have a client come to us, they've got a pretty sophisticated prompt, but they're trying to write the whole email with it. And just by chunking it out and breaking it into different steps where it's AI ping, AI ping, AI ping, you end up with much more natural sounding copy that's better researched and more valuable than if you just try to have it do everything in one go. Go to the site, figure out why they're a good buyer for us, also write the email, also. You end up asking too much and you end up with slop. Subject lines, keep it lowercase, 2 words or fewer. I guess 2 words, fewer is just 1. And create a pool of 20 or so variations so that you're not repeating the same subject line across thousands of emails. You don't want to create patterns that the email filters can pick up on if you can help it. Same goes with email address names, by the way, when you're setting up your infrastructure. Try to make the language natural. So M dashes, right, is a dead giveaway that you're using AI to write. Try to read some of the finished emails that you're generating to make sure that in your mind, it's something that a real colleague or client would have sent to that person. And keep rewriting your prompts and tweaking them until the answer is yes. This is a message that a human would have sent. All right, so how do we know any of this is working? Well, open rates are no longer useful. Apple's privacy changes alone preload images and log opens that have never happened. In general, I recommend turning off open and click tracking completely because even having those tracking pixels in your email is going to hurt your deliverability. And you can't rely on the data anyway, so what's the point? You're going to want to track your reply rate and your positive reply rate instead. My general opinion here is a 2% overall reply rate is solid. Yes, that includes out of office and includes the FUs and the unsubscribes, but it's a good indication that you are delivering normally. Now, if you're above 3 or 4%, amazing. Throw as many leads into that campaign as you can. And below 1% to me usually points to a deliverability problem, although this can normalize if you're sending at real scale, 500,000, a million emails a month. If the campaign has never worked, run an inbox placement test, see how that comes back. If it comes back negative, you're going to want to look at deliverability and just make sure that's not it across the board. Then you might have some scrubbing to do with domains that have burned out, or you're going to have to replace those with new inboxes and new domains and then get back to work. If you were getting good results and they were steady and then they dropped suddenly, then a lot of times that's more of a copy issue. It means your copy's been fingerprinted by an email service provider or one of the secure email gateways, like a Mimecast or a Proofpoint or something like that. And essentially they know that it's outbound email and they've tied it back to a campaign at some level. So in that case, you're going to want to go through and come up with more variations on that particular campaign. They've got to be very different than your original copy. Otherwise, you're just going to hit the same filter again. And you've basically got to run that experiment until you get something that's normalizing that reply rate again. Now, once you get the positive reply to come in the door, call the prospect. About a third of positive replies will book a call if you only follow up by email, but that rises to about 70-75% when you pick up the phone too. And the faster the call, the better, ideally within 15 minutes of the reply. In general, be patient with your timeline and assessing results. A campaign can take a month or so of testing and another month of adjusting before it really stabilizes and you can read a ton into it. Now, it's different if you're sending crazy volume, but a lot of people start slow. Give it time. Make sure that you've got a reasonable sample size before you start reading too much into your data. So we've got this in order: offer, message, infrastructure, then your tight list, then short specific copy. And that list and copy stuff really should tie together at a lot of levels, especially if you're using AI to generate some of your email copy. You want to measure by your reply rate and your positive reply rate, and you want to call every positive reply that comes in the door. Now, you can build the entire system yourself. If you want to skip managing the domain, infrastructure, inboxes piece, Scaled Mail handles that part as a managed service. And we do run an agency at my company, Beanstalk, as well. If all of this just sounds way too complicated, then we can do it for you as a service. So either way, both links are going to be in the description below.